Good morning, good morning. It's Wednesday Wisdom again, and we're here with the beautiful Casey Lightbody. And we're going to do another deep dive into business and leadership and all of that wonderful stuff that we both love. So we're going to be talking about introspection. How are you today before we start?
Thanks, Liz. I'm well. Thank you so much for having me again today. I'm so excited. I love this little cozy corner on the interwebs. It's so fun.
It is, isn't it? Hey, doesn't matter where we are in the world, we can connect these days. I just got off a call with a friend over in America that we catch up once a month. So
Amazing, amazing.
yeah,
I know, it's
it's so
just so
nice.
beautiful. And this is the opportunity for us, open to us too, right? In terms of doing business, is that business can come from anywhere and everywhere. And it's about, we're going to talk, I think, visibility in a couple of weeks, but this is part of it, is that how do we actually start to build these threads of connection, because those threads of connection are open to us anyway. But yes, I'm keen to talk about the balance today. Balancing strategy with soul, right? Two
Yes,
such important things.
yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely, what I've noticed. I've been in business for 25 years now, and
Mm-hmm.
what I have noticed is that soul is, if you're not in line with what your soul purpose is, or what you feel like your passion is, then that misalignment just shows up everywhere, right? And it's
Absolutely.
just, it doesn't work anymore. It used to. People could be out of their integrity, and that's why we've got the definitions of the sleazy salesman and all
Mm.
of those things.
Mm.
But these days, it's the level of consciousness in the community is, I'm not playing that game. I don't want to be sold into something that you don't believe in. If you don't believe in it, I'm not believing in it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, Liz. And that's exactly right, right? The world is shifting, and buyers are becoming way more perceptive and way more discerning. And the old way of doing business is no longer working anymore. And that's why I'm hosting the summit in a few months, which I'm so excited about, really talking about how to do business differently, how to do sales and marketing differently, because no longer are we buying into the status quo of what business should look like. And so it's really about, how do we actually break the rules? How do we actually burn down the stuff that isn't working for us? And how do we come back home into ourselves and lead from that place of full alignment? And, it took me crashing the car into the wall and completely burning out in overwhelm and overdoing, to actually realize that I could have all the strategy in the world, but unless I was actually working from a place of inner alignment, I wasn't going to see sustainable success. And that is why I really believe that it's so important to actually find the things that bring you into alignment, right? And that's all the things. We're not just talking business and marketing and sales, but we're talking about your whole inner being too, which is all the work that you do. Specifically is actually looking at all those pieces of the puzzle and how can you bring them all into alignment, because excuse me, when you're in full alignment, business simply does flow. It can feel easy, right?
Yeah.
But when you are choosing to be in the struggle, when you're choosing to be in the suffering, that is you keeping yourself safe, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And because we don't know what we don't know. We fear letting go of the known more than we fear the unknown. Right? So when we start to look at, okay, what are all the things that we need to let go of, receive, actually work through to be in alignment, that is when we can actually see flow in our businesses. So
Absolutely. And that's a conversation in itself, isn't it? Because as you said, the work that I do, sometimes you're making that choice unconsciously to stay in the struggle, and you're not
right,
even aware of it, right?
right.
So, why isn't it working for me? Why is this not working? What, like, am I not good enough? Blah, 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 blah. Or the inner critic and the conversation that happens in the head. But when you're in soul alignment and you're, got all of those things, those, your passion, your purpose, and your unconscious agenda, all lined up, then that's when that flow happens. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think one of the biggest lessons, I've actually just hopped off an interview that I was doing for the summit, and we're talking about this whole concept of what does high performance mean? And again, it's an old paradigm that we've attached to feel like we're achieving things. And especially for those of you listening who are type A, ambitious, driven women, we've bought into this whole way of being that the more things that we've got on our to-do lists, the better that we're achieving, right? But it's actually the complete opposite. And we're looking at how can you, because anti-performance is the key to success. And part of that is this piece around introspection, right, Liz? And it's about getting, like, actually slowing down, pausing, taking space, giving yourself grace. And that, for someone who is so ambitious and wanting to do things, it's been the hardest.
Oh my gosh.
In all honesty,
yeah,
right?
I can imagine. And it's so counterintuitive to everything that we've been told about, you've just got to be, knuckles to the grindstone. You've got to be on all the time. You've got to be working, if you're owning your own business, you've got to be working, crazy hours, so that you get everything done. And if you're not doing that, it feels so foreign, which is what this, bringing in that energy of, there's so much talk about the feminine leaders and leadership in bringing feminine and masculine together. It's just bringing in that space so that you can create from a higher place rather than from your mind and the go that the mind has been conditioned and programmed to do.
Absolutely. And that's not to say that we don't do anything, right? This is the bringing the masculine in, right?
Yeah.
So it's really important to be able to still take action, but it's about having that intuition, and it's about having the discernment to say, okay, well, what are the things that I need to be working on that are actually going to move the needle forwards in my business? And this is where the introspection comes into place too, right? Liz is saying, okay, let's take the space. Let's take the pause, and then let's get radically honest with ourselves around what do we need to be doing, right? Like really looking at your list of things on your to-do list and saying, okay, is this something that I need to be doing, or do I need to say no? Like invitations that come in, is it a yes or is it a no? So actually being okay with letting go of stuff. And I know for myself, it was one of the hardest things that I had to do, was that when I took the pause, and many people know my story, but I started my first business, which was a marketing consulting business. My background's in marketing. I'd worked in it in corporate for years and years and years. I started the consultancy business. It grew into an agency, and on paper, it was a success. It was multi-six figures. I had a team, all the things, right? And I remember sitting at this very desk and I was like, something is off. I did not sign up to this. I did not sign up to being tied to this desk 16 hours a day, not seeing my family, not being able to go to my kids' sports days. Like, this is not what I signed up for. And so I took a pause and I had to get really honest with myself and say, what have I actually created here? And it was that moment that I realized, hold on a second, everything that I've built is completely misaligned to me and how I want to show up. And so I actually had to get radically honest with myself and say, okay, what's really going on here? And I saw I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but I saw all my shit coming up, right? And I was like, oh my God, I had to do all this like work that I was completely ignoring because I was just pretending to be super busy, and I was ignoring all the emotional side of things. That was the first thing. The second thing was I realized, oh, hold on a second. I'm deeply introverted. I'm deeply sensitive. How can I actually create a business that's going to honor my introversion and sensitivity? The agency certainly isn't going to do that, right? And so I had to make a really hard decision to actually burn that business to the ground. And in hindsight, obviously, there's ways that I could have sold it and things like that. But I was like, I'm drawing a line in the sand and I'm walking away from this. And it was a really hard decision, one of the hardest that I've had to make, because I poured my blood, sweat, and tears into building this business, but everything in it felt hard. It felt hustle, it felt push. And I was like, no, I'm not signing up for this. And so that was really the journey of introspection that I started on. And I was like, okay, I'm going to build from the ashes now, and I'm going to build something that really feels me, it's soul aligned. And so I was like, okay, so every decision that I make now in the business, or most of the decisions, oftentimes I still have my blind spots. I'm human, right? But most of the decisions that I make is like, okay, is this in alignment with where I'm going? I'm really clear on my vision. I know where I'm headed. So is this decision going to actually fuel me, or is it going to take away from me? And so sometimes it's me saying no to things that I really want to do too. But it's actually having that level of discernment and following my intuition and making those decisions from that place, rather than what I should be doing, right?
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to go back. I wrote it down so I wouldn't be sidetracked, because there was something that you said at the very start that I wanted to come back to about the pause and the introspection, because I want to just take a moment to have a chat about the difference between being distracted and pause, right? Because we can think that, okay, we're supposed to be introspective, or we're supposed to be, like this is a new way of being. Everyone's listening with their mind instead of really feeling into it, and so the distraction can make you feel like you're pausing and you're having that moment to reflect and all of those things, but actually it's just distracting you from where you're, what it is you really want to create, and that flow that you were talking about at the end.
Right. And the distraction stopping you from taking action on the things that are actually feeling really uncomfortable for you, but deep down in your heart, those are the things that you need to be the actions that you need to be taking, right? And this is where the strategy piece comes in, right, Liz? And so really I want to say just a message to those listening is that the bridge is the compassion piece, right? So again, you want to be taking action and taking radical self-responsibility for the key priorities that are going to move the needle forwards in your business. And at the same time, you want to actually be able to take the pause, to be able to listen, to actually follow from a place of soul alignment, but giving yourself the grace and compassion to say that it's not always taking action. And sometimes when you're in the grace, it's okay to wobble because you've got distracted, right? And so it's okay to give yourself compassion in that space, but to continually checking in with yourself. And again, being honest when you're in the distraction too, and being able to pull yourself out, right? So I think that's really a key piece. But then it comes down to, okay, what to take action on, right? And this is this piece where when you start to feel uncomfortable, but that it's actually coming from a place of alignment, that's the marker to take action, right? And this is this piece where it becomes easier it becomes easier with practice. And so I always ask my clients, is the reason that you're not doing that is because it feels really uncomfortable because it's new, or it's because it's completely out of alignment with you? And this is where you have to tap in with yourself and get honest with yourself and say, well, hold on a second. It's just because it's new and it's feeling uncomfortable because it's new, but I actually feel like it's in alignment. Sometimes you won't know until you're in the practice of it, and then you can figure it out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to get your feet dirty, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I always say, this is where the strategic piece comes in, right? Because at the end of the day, Business is all around how well you build relationships. Marketing and sales is all about relationships, right? So we talked last week about the 6 C's and what that looks like, right? Of really setting the foundations of business. But you want to say to yourself, at the end of the day, how I help my clients is I bridge purpose and passion with profit. And but the bridge is then, I'm talking a lot about bridges today for some reason, but anyway, we're talking about bridges, right?
Yeah.
And the bridge is the action that you take, the strategic aligned action that you take, because that is the thing that's going to lead you towards profit, right? So when you're doing your audit in your pause and you're looking at your to-do list and you're saying, well, hold on a second, what are the things that are actually I'm just distracting myself with because it's making me feel busy, it's making me feel accomplished, and it's making me feel good. It's like, oh, actually, the thing that's the 20th on my list is actually the thing that I need to be doing. Well, we've got to actually prioritize that, right? And so I always say to my clients, the top 3 priorities in business, especially when you're in the early stages of business, but really at all stages of business, is number 1, how can I get visible today? Because if people don't know that you exist, they're not going to know that they can work with you, right? So that's number 1. The second one is, how can I have a sales conversation today? How can I put my offer out there? For so many of my clients, people don't know how they can work with you because you're not sharing how they can work with you. Then you're not putting your offers out frequently enough, right? Because it might be pushy, sleazy, salesy to put your offers out, right? So really look at your mindset.
And scary for some people.
Scary.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? So how can you actually have a sales conversation? And then the third one for me, because at the end of the day, clients are an extended family for me, and it's about together we rise, shoulder to shoulder, right? So how can you actually delight your customers today? And so those 3, for me, that if I do those and nothing else on my priority list every single day, I'm moving the needle forward 1% in my business, right? And so, of course, there's strategy around goals, and we set goals and we set priorities around that, and we set campaigns and all of that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, if you want to kind of strip it all back and simplify it completely, is actually looking at your to-do list and saying, what action do I need to take today to actually move the needle forwards? And if it's uncomfortable, that is a marker that you need to be doing it. And especially when you check in with yourself and say, is it in alignment with where I want to go?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, such great advice. And, and a great reminder for people that may have been in business for a while and you get sort of a bit stagnant with the day-to-day. Wait a minute, what are my priorities? What am I doing today? And am I visible? That's, that's a big thing, especially for us introverts, right? Like we tend to want to hide behind the screen and, am I being visible? Am I making, an impact in the right way, towards my end result sort of thing. So before we jump off, can you just share a little bit about, I know that you haven't really advertised it yet, but a little bit about your summit and tell us what's going on with that.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Liz, this has been a full circle moment for me, right? It's been something that I'm absolutely, it feels so in alignment with me, right? And it's so interesting. I want to actually just digress a little bit because I think this is important. It's an important piece around introspection that I think is really important. And, we've had offline discussions around really getting to know ourselves and looking at our personalities and how we drive. And we've talked about Enneagram and we've talked about Myers-Briggs. So Myers-Briggs was the very first personality test that I ever did. And when it came out that I'm an INFJ, I was gobsmacked, right? Because I thought, I've been this pretend extrovert for all my life, and actually I'm deeply introverted. And so that was a marker for me to really start to actually investigate, well, what does introversion mean to me? What does it look like? Now I start to see how I've been showing up in the world and why I get so exhausted in certain social situations. And so life started making so much more sense to me when I realized how introverted I was. And so one of the markers, I'm diving really deeply into human design at the moment, which I'm absolutely loving. And one of the things that I know myself, that I'm starting to learn about myself, is that I learn by doing. I'm a big experimenter. And I have a big propensity for risk, right? So I take lots of risks. And I think as a business owner, we all have to have some kind of propensity for risk, right? And so it's been really interesting for me because I've tried a lot of things. And so I bring that experience of experimenting to my clients because I know what works and what doesn't work because I've tried it all, right?
Yeah.
And so I think this has been so interesting for me to learn about myself. And so not feeling like I'm a bit of this one-hit wonder because I try things and I don't stick to them. That's just really my makeup. And this is what is actually one of my unique superpowers now, is this ability to experiment and try things and learn from those things. And so the summit is kind of full circle with this because I've tried all these different things and I've seen where I've held myself back from a leadership perspective because I'm so passionate about this belief that women are going to heal and lead the world. And I want to actually support women in healing and leading the world and to create these global movements around supporting women to create global transformation and make this big impact. And for the longest time, I wasn't in a space to lead that movement myself. And I've had to do the inner work for myself to actually bring this to fruition, right? And it's the work that I've done around introversion and sensitivity and empathy and quietness. And so it's all coming together in the conference, which I'm so excited about. It's going to be a 4-day immersion. It's coming up in June. Obviously, it's free to attend. So I'd love for it, those of you listening, if you're interested, drop me a DM and we can pop you on a wait list. It's still early days and I haven't started promoting it, but it's a real 4-day immersion, Liz, and it's bringing some phenomenal speakers and phenomenal panelists together to actually have uncensored debate and conversation around what it's going to take to lead yourself differently in 2023, to do business differently in 2023 and beyond, to do marketing and sales differently. So we're going to break down all those patriarchal structures and systems and programs that we've bought into because we felt like we've had to. We're going to break all of those conversations down and start from fresh, right? It's like this phoenix rising and it's around unleashing our quiet rebel and doing business and leadership and ourselves from a soul place of alignment to create transformation in the world, really. And so we're going to be talking, there's a lot of conversations. We're going to have immersive sessions where we're going to actually get into our body and feel it. So it's going to be a whole lot of fun. There's giveaways and prizes and all sorts of fun things that are in the works. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm so looking forward to it myself because I know that I'm one of the panelists on one of the discussions.
Yes, it's going to be amazing.
But I know that you've got some really big names that you've given me, like you're hiding them, hiding them until the launch. But I do know I had a book in my bag when I was at your house, and you went, just a little sneak peek. That the guy that works with that person's on the summit. So so very exciting that there's going to be some great names in there and some amazing information. So even if to either DM Casey or to put yes please in the comments here and we can get you in contact with Casey. But Casey's quite easy to find on Facebook as well. So
my kids say to me, Mum, you just Google your name and you're all over the place. I was like, that's what happens when you're in the online world, right? It's all about visibility. yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Casey. It's so lovely to have another chat with you, and looking forward to next week. I haven't got it in front of me, but we're sort of going on a journey. So next week's going to be an extension of what we're doing, and then on what we've already been talking about, and then an accumulation, like a crescendo for the last session on the fourth session. So looking forward to it. Thank you so much for having me again today, and I can't wait to carry on the conversation. And as always, if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to add in the chat. I pop into the group every now and then, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I'm an open book, Liz. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions. I've tried it all, done it all, made lots of mistakes and failures along the way, but I say it's all lessons learned, and you be better in all of it too, right? So
Yeah,
thank you so
absolutely.
much for having me.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Take care.